I actually remember the very night I realized we were living next to an oil well. When drilling for oil, lots of chemicals are released into the air, so our community just started smelling like rotten eggs all of a sudden.
I began my activism when I was 9 years old, and I didn't even know I was an activist. My activism was truly born out of survival. It was born so I could open the window in my own home. And that's the reality for so many people in my community.
I grew up 30 feet from an active oil and gas well that severely impacted my health.
It became such a common conversation starter for our parents, specifically our moms, to stop each other in the street and say, hey, my daughter had an asthma attack last night, or my son is in the ER, can you help me pick up my other kids from school? My mom and I were just walking home from school one day. She picked me up, and the gates to the well are always closed. But this one day they were wide open. Without even saying a word, we just looked at each other and we both ran inside. An oil well worker took us on an entire tour of the facility. He took us underground and showed us the 21 active wells, and he started opening these valves. And he explained to us that in all of these urban oil wells, they operate under such immense pressure that valves have to be manually opened every 10 to 15 minutes to prevent an explosion. I was 10 years old, and I learned that we were living on a bomb. He put oil from the oil well 30 feet from my home, and he added water to it, and he told me to keep the souvenir and to remember that oil and water never mix. I've kept it as a reminder ever since.
I developed asthma, heart palpitations, and I wore a heart monitor for several weeks. I developed body spasms so intense that my mom would carry me from one place to the other. And my nosebleeds got to the point where they were so intense I had to sleep in a chair to prevent choking on my own blood at night. And at the age of 19, I was diagnosed with stage 2 reproductive cancer. Within a few years of my first symptoms, I was a full-time activist, missing school dances, traveling to conferences, and speaking about environmental racism to end urban oil extraction.
As someone that grew up in California, I've become desensitized to the amount of oil wells that we have in our state. I was constantly told, you really think you and your mom are gonna shut down this oil well? My mom is a very big dreamer, and she instilled that in me, and she would always say, well, if they will win, why can't we win?
What pushed me personally was the love I had for my community. Our community was under attack, and we stood up and we fought back for our basic human right of breathing clean air in our very own homes. In 2013, the oil company across the street finally shut down their drilling operations. In 2020, the company was ordered to plug and decommission the wells. As I traveled the state, I met more and more communities that looked like mine. And collectively, our voices got stronger.
2 years ago, SB 1137 was signed into law by California Governor Gavin Newsom, which is a 3,200-foot health and safety buffer zone between new oil and gas operations and sensitive land, so schools, parks, hospitals.
This decision was driven by frontline communities and powered by an unwavering commitment to our basic human right to breathe clean air.
I think it's very important for voters to know that we have the power to write our own future. Growing up in a frontline community myself, many times we don't have control of what goes on in our community. But what we do have the power of is the power to organize. What we do have is the power to vote and to make sure our elected officials are representing us, the community, the people, and not a corporation.
And we always have to be advocating for ourselves, and the urgency that us frontline community members act with is the urgency we invite everyone to act with, because our lives are literally on the line. There might not be drilling in your community, but there could be drilling in your community unless we hold the fossil fuel industry accountable.